Welcome to this edition of the Black Madonna Speaks on the Heart of the Black Madonna channel with me, your host, Stephanie Georgiev, author of the Black Madonna Mysterious Soul Companion. Please see the description below this video for information on how you can support this channel and also how you can purchase a copy of my book on numerous different mediums. The last couple of years have been momentous in terms of anniversaries and commemorations. One of the more profound commemorations this year is an exceptionally serious and often overlooked event in the Americas. 2019 is the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first slaves in the British Colonies. African slaves have been part of the Americas since the 16th century, European colonization of the Americas, but the introduction into North America is noted to have happened in 1619. August 20th, 1619 is the day that the Portuguese slave traders brought the first group of 20 slaves to Jamestown, a Virginia colony at the time. This year, on August 20th, there were commemorations of this momentous event. A project called the 1619 Project through the New York Times has been a catalyst for collaborations between the Smithsonian Institution, many cultural and educational groups across the United States, with educational brunches, curriculums, study groups, museum exhibits, and more. UNESCO, the United States Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization annual Slavery Remembrance Day is held on the 23rd of August each year. On the 23rd of August in 1791, an uprising of enslaved Africans on the island of Saint Dominique began. Saint Dominique became modern Haiti. The uprising was finally successful at establishing Haiti's independence from the French in 1804 and was the only uprising to give rise to a state ruled by former slaves. It was a crucial event in the fight to end European transatlantic slave trade. The date has been designated by UNESCO as Slavery Remembrance Day, a reminder that enslaved Africans were the main agents of their own liberation. What I wanted to look at during this segment of the Black Madonna Speaks has been inspired by these commemorations. I would like to look at the issue of slavery in the Americas and the Caribbean in relationship to the art form of the Black Madonna. I also wanted to look at the spiritual implications of slavery in the Americas as a way to conceptualize this period of history that affects us to this day. And I also wanted to see how the art form of the Black Madonna can be a healing impulse in this very, very sad and troubling history. The word slavery is a noun and is identified as a state of being a slave. The definition of the word slave is also a noun and is a person who is the legal property of another person and is forced to obey the owner. For me, the aspect of this definition that is the key to understanding the purpose and spiritual underpinnings of slavery are the words property and own. Slavery has been a part of many ancient cultures. We know that there were slaves in ancient Egypt and Greece. It is well known there were slaves in ancient Rome. What many may not know is there were slaves in Britain from the ancient times. Typically, slaves in the time of the Greeks, Romans, and ancient Britain were captured during wars and brought back to forced labor in the conquering lands. All of these people performed various forms of labor, forced labor in every aspect of society, household, personal servants, agricultural, and crafts. Some slaves provided educated tasks such as secretarial and accounting services. A very profound effect of slavery from ancient Greece, which has set the cultural tone since Western civilization, is how the society was viewed in ancient Greece. The only members of society that were deemed as worthy were citizens of Greeks, but the citizens were few, and slaves were not citizens. And in essence, citizens basically sat around and thought up stuff. They philosophized, made up theories, and were where the slaves in this society did all the manual labor that enabled life to go on. And what's also interesting is that in Greece and Rome, there were quite a few slaves and not very many citizens, which made people kind of nervous. And there were numerous slave uprisings because they basically were doing all the work, and there were a heck of a lot more of them than the citizens. This hierarchy of worth, meaning those who did the basic tasks that made life possible on Earth, such as growing and cooking food, sewing, cleaning, weaving, and such, that these people were deemed as unworthy in a culture and not deeming citizenship, whereas those who did only the intellectual work of thinking and philosophizing, these people were seen as valuable. This idea is the foundation of Western civilization, and we can see that it still has validity today. It certainly influenced ancient cultures and the expansion of slave trade as the world civilization developed, and European expansion and colonization spread through to the 19th century. But the concept of ownership is key to the institution and thinking surrounding slavery, and calls into question, what does it mean to own something, and can we truly own anything? The concept of slavery, in my opinion, is the human outcome of what is called materialism. So we need another definition, that of materialism. Materialism is also a noun. In philosophy, materialism is the doctrine that nothing exists except matter and its movement and modification. For me, this idea is obviously rampant in modern culture and is the philosophical pinnacle of modern society. Even certain approaches to religion, that nothing exists except what we can see, touch, taste, and measure with weight and length. Another definition of materialism I find very interesting is a tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values. For me, this definition says that possessing anything, even people, is more important than anything else, even spiritual, moral, and religious values. Possessing anything in the material has also become equated as a spiritual value, as a sign that spirit world approves and rewards the good, worthy people with stuff and punishes the bad people with poverty. The history of slavery in the Americas is a complex and shameful one, but again, it has much to do with the concept of owning, as well as what makes up an economic system and what and who has worth. It also has much to do with the misrepresentation of what it means to be a Christian and Christian universalism when it comes to human dignity and the human-divine relationship. Slavery in the Americas is actually related to the medieval Crusades. The Kingdom of Portugal was formed in 1385. The king and queen at that time, John and Philippa, which you can see in their marriage ceremony in the central picture of this slide, were extremely religious in nature and had several sons that were charged on their mother's deathbed to do something profound for the spreading of Christianity. Prince Henry, seen here in the slide on the right, he was called Prince Henry the Navigators. And he took this charge very seriously and went on all sorts of escapades, searching for Muslim enclaves to invade, since the Crusades had actually long ceased. In a very abbreviated approach to this story, and it is excellently told in the book Holy War that you see in front of me, And it's all about the journeys of Vasco da Gama and how this turned the tide in century-old clash of civilizations. This book shows that the quest to spread Christianity to the known world and the search for the legendary Christian King Prester John, mixed in with the demand for new trade routes for spices and golds, that all of these quests basically ended in failure. The Portuguese navigators could not keep justifying these expensive transoceanic and continental expeditions. So they thought, hey, what about slavery? And went into Africa, abducting the natives and brought them back to Portugal. After a few very unwelcome reception of the African slaves, the Portuguese warmed to the idea. When the Americas were being colonized by the Europeans, the monarchies were having a difficult time recruiting colonists. Even those who were willing to go to the colonies, roughly 80 to 90% of the Europeans died within the first year of landing. These people died due to many factors, such as starvation, accidents, getting killed by natives, but mostly people died of diseases, specifically malaria. It was soon found out that African slaves were immune to these diseases and tended to survive in the colonies, igniting a burgeoning slave trade between Portugal, England, Spain, and the Americas. When the Spanish colonized large portions of North, Central, and South America, the treatment of the natives was horrific. So much so that the clergy and missionaries of the day implored the Spanish king and queen, along with the Pope, to intervene in the matter. There was such an uproar that a great conclave was assembled, and a proclamation from the then Pope Paul III on June 2nd, 1532, resulted in a papal bull which forbade the enslavement of native peoples in the Americas. The bull is called Sublimis Deo and is seen as the original document for the issue and catalyst for other similar proclamation. The most interesting aspect of this document is that it states that even though the natives are pagan, they are fully rational human beings and have a right to freedom and to own property. What is glaringly absent from this document was the inclusion of the people of Africa. So it became tacitly approving of the continued enslavement of Africans in the Americas. Slavery in general is a lucrative business practice. To this day, labor costs are always at the heart of all business expenses, and often seen as the reason for low wages, automation, or moving of industry to foreign shores where people are available to work for a fraction of the cost of local workers. At the time of this recording, there's a large automotive worker strike where the workers who have agreed to concessions for years to keep the industry afloat resulted in record profits for 3 years in a row. These same workers that contributed to this success are now being denied raises. The workers claim they are instrumental in the productivity of the company and would like a share in the profits, and the company disagrees. At the heart of this argument is who should get the rewards of profits, the workers or the stockholders. It all boils down to how manual work is valued in our culture. In my opinion, American commerce has never fully recovered from the loss of slavery during the Civil War and as a result of the Civil War. But at the heart of slavery and labor issues is materialism, a tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values or human beings. The Black Madonnas of the Americas have unique narratives compared to the stories associated with the Black Madonnas of Europe. The American Madonnas usually have their origins in Europe and are brought across the sea. Often the Black Madonnas survive shipwrecks or help the crew and vessel survive storms. In modern popular literature and cinema, This phenomena is explored in the very popular book, The Secret Life of Bees. There is a memorable scene where a group of women have their own ceremony with an image of a Black woman who was the statue on the prow of a wrecked ship. She is seen as the symbol of endurance. It is of note that the main character of the story is a beekeeper, and the cover of the book shows a jar of honey with the Black Madonna on the label. Some of the most ancient Christian communities on earth are found throughout Africa, specifically in Egypt and Ethiopia. In fact, the common attitude that Christianity has been imposed on African by colonial powers is actually quite inaccurate. The first church fathers of ancient Christianity were from Africa, and some of the oldest churches in the world are found in Africa. When Islamic forces started their territorial expansions across Asia and Africa, the conquered were ancient Christian communities. In Ethiopia, the connection between Christianity and honey is well established, with some sects using honey in their approach to the sacrament of communion. There are monasteries that have what they call sacred beehives, and we see this reflected in the book, The Secret Life of Bees. As those of you who have read my book, The Black Madonna, Mysterious Soul Companion, may notice, one of the ways to understand the symbolism of the Black Madonna is through the color black. Black is the color of divine will transforming into human will. In the Americas, one of the spiritual values that have shaped the evolution of the continents is that of creating something new. The world's peoples have come to the Americas, some by choice, others in the hulls of slave ships. Each group brings a quality to the community, the new community, and what those from Africa have brought are the qualities of endurance and resilience and a strong will to live. But the deepest gift that those from Africa can bring to the Americas and the new civilizations that have resulted is to challenge the notion of human worth and dignity based on materialism. One of the originators of the 1619 Project, a reporter from the New York Times, Nicole Hannah-Jones, said something profound during an interview she granted on television in the lead up to the release of the project. Ms. Hannah-Jones said that some of the reasons for the backlash and dismissal of the 1619 Project was that when the dominant community is faced with a person whose origins come from Africa, this confrontation reminds everyone of the pain and sin of slavery and racism in America, and that no one likes to be reminded of their shortcomings. She stated this is a reason for the uncomfortableness with race and in the United States of America. The issue of race, that of skin color determining a person's worth, is a deeply spiritual issue. In the Christian understanding of the cosmos, the act of the incarnation, passion, and resurrection was to show that divinity thought enough of humans that divinity actually incarnated into a human body through the passion of Christ, and that the spark of divinity flowed into the earth, transforming all of matter and actually making all of us equal in the eye of the Creator. After this cosmic act, we all became equal. And in the words of Paul, found in Galatians 3, verse 28, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. We can extrapolate that there is neither one race or another, for we are all one in Christ. But in order to actually become one, we must acknowledge our past and honor the path that has led us to the present. We must recognize the sorrow and transform the sorrow into joy so we can actually become the beloved community of many different peoples into the community of the saints. Several years ago, I interviewed the author of this book called Race and the Cosmos by Barbara Holmes, and she elegantly and eloquently explores how looking to our origins as coming from the cosmos can be a great unifying and healing factor. What I can also say is that this is something that I have found to be one of the most healing aspects of the Black Madonna as a sacred art form. I've received much flack online by those who argue that these Madonnas should not be called Black. They are simply Madonnas, and to call them Black is actually a racist approach to the genre. Black Madonna is the title of a genre of Madonnas in Europe who are Black or very dark brown. A large contingent of these works of art were brought from the Holy Land in Africa during the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages are a time of preparation for our current age. I would also say that these images were a counter to the onslaught of materialism that has permeated everything in our age, particularly religion, spirituality, and racism. Many Protestant sects and New Age approaches to spirituality promote ideas that material wealth is a sign of divine approval and award. Some religions and cults also promote and use religious principles to say that certain races are better than others, or actually more loved by God than others. Religion is used to justify slavery and racism and racial separation for generations. For me, the Black Madonna is a powerful symbol that all peoples have divinity within, regardless of how they look or where they come from. I think this is why the images so beloved in the Americas are Black, brown, and mestizo, or mixed race, to speak to the diversity and to inspire all to see divinity in all peoples. In Spain, there are specific definitions for Black and white Madonnas, with many churches having both. I see this as an interesting attempt by the spiritual world to show that the Madonna can be both and all. We all begin the same way. We all have divinity, the dust of the cosmos, the original cosmic bursting forth. The stuff of stars makes up all of our bodies. The spiritual effects of materialism on civilization, the tendency to consider material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values, is in direct conflict with the words of Paul, that there is neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free, neither male nor female, for we are all one in Christ Jesus. We need to really delve into our history on the continent of the Americas and on Earth and within the cosmos, and understand our deep origins, how we approach materialism, and that how this affects our communities and how we treat one another. For me, the Black Madonna, as a symbol of divinity, speaks volumes. May this image of the Dark Mother inspire us to be our best selves and to see divinity in all with whom we meet. Blessings on your journey. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and let me know what you think about the topic. Please also consider becoming a patron for this channel and an upcoming project on mapping of the Black Madonnas. If you would like a copy of the Black Madonna Mysterious Soul Companion, it's available on Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and through Barnes & Noble and the Book Depository. Check out the Booklaunch page on the link below this video for more information. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to our next time together.